Right, so I'm just going to cut to the chase straight away and do the conclusion of this thing in case you can't be bothered to watch the full review. Aoki have sponsored me by sending me one of these units to review, and the bottom line is I am well impressed. It's absolutely amazing, and for the 160 odd pounds reduced to 130 with the discount I've put in the bottom of the description, it's an amazing piece of kit with 2 cameras and tyre pressure sensors. So if you want to watch the rest of the review, then stick with me and we'll talk through it. Cheers. Right, now you've seen the conclusion, let's talk about the unit. I don't like doing unboxings because you already know what's in the box. So what I've done is I've taken a photograph of everything that's in the box. This unit is so well made, it's actually quite heavy. It's even got its own screen protector already applied to it. It comes with a 64GB memory card that is housed under some rubber, and then it has a plate over it, making this fully waterproof. It's been sat on my bike now for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, in the snow, cold weather, etc., and it's still working beautifully. They do say that it's theft resistant or something like that on the website, but to be honest with you, with the mount, it is nickable. What I've done here is on the ram mount, it used to have a butterfly screw on it, and I've taken that off and I've put a nut and bolt in to make it more secure. The reason I'm saying it's not easily removable is because there are 3 wires. Now, because I've got this binnacle closing in the handlebars, it makes it more difficult for me to unscrew everything. But if you have a bike that's easily accessible with those plugs, it'll literally take 30 seconds for you to unplug it and pull the unit off overnight. I'm just leaving it on now. There are other mounts you can get with this, and you ask them when you first buy the unit, and you can get the handlebar mount with it, you can get the ram mount, and I think there's 1 or 2 other ways that you can do it as well. But I'm really impressed with how well this is made, and the fact it comes with a 64GB memory card already in there is amazing. And yes, I'm on my old Pan-European. The cameras, I've mounted the front one underneath, just here. Make sure if you do mount it underneath your fairing that there is enough clearance between the mud guard and the fairing or the camera. So if you do an emergency stop, it's not going to shatter the camera. The rear camera I have mounted underneath my top box. And you can see part of the top box above the camera, but that's not a bad thing because when I brake, I can see that my brake lights are working on the display. Very clever. The cameras are a 1080 camera and they're quite a low bit rate, so they're not the best quality in the world, but the whole idea of these cameras is to see that there has been a problem if you have a crash. You don't necessarily need the quality of a helmet cam. So to me it does the job really, really well. If you didn't want the cameras, there is a cheaper unit out there that's nearly half the price. But I still think for 130 odd pounds including your discount, it's amazing value. The other feature are these tyre pressure sensors. When I first fitted them, they were about 4 or 5 psi out, and I don't know why now, but they're absolutely bang on to my pressure gauge. And I thought initially that I wouldn't be too bothered about pressure sensors because I often check my tyre pressures anyway. But getting on the bike every single day knowing that I have 36 front, 42 rear is actually it's quite comforting, because then you know you haven't got a slow puncture happening over the next few days. To wire it in, you need a switchable source. So I found a wire coming off the horn here that's behind this binnacle. I pared it back, I soldered the positive onto that, and I put heat shrink over it so that's all nice and sealed. And the earth of course goes to any earth you want it to. So the beauty of that is it only comes on when you switch the unit on, or switch the ignition on rather. So let's turn it on. When you do buy it, if you wanted to, you can request a logo with them. And of course I've got the Roadcraft logo here. Let's talk about the legalities of fiddling around with these things. Being an instructor, it honestly makes me cringe. A lot of these reviewers, look at that, 3642, perfect. A lot of these reviewers that are faffing around with the screens, getting distracted. Now because this isn't a handheld device, the law in the UK, you can't be prosecuted for actually operating it. But distracted driving is not only illegal, but it's very, very dangerous. And all it takes is somebody to be distracted for this to happen. And that just shows looking down for a couple of seconds can be a problem. Now, as you can see here, 30 seconds later, the unit is booted up. You've got the cameras front and rear. You've got my music choices there. I can either go on Amazon Music or I can go over to my own music, which is on my telephone. All this is a mirror. Shows you what's recently played there, and there's back to the menu. And with this as well, it can reflect or mirror whatever sat nav you want to be using. So I can use Google Maps if I want to, and that'll boot it up. Or I can go back. I actually like using the Amigo, which is the TomTom, because I've turned the directions off, but she still warns me about average speed cameras, etc., even though I'm a good boy. So as you can see here, that's taken over the whole screen now. But if I press that, it'll then put my music back on, and now it doesn't seem to be working on my Samsung Music at the moment, but it can do, and it does do. With these cameras, if you press that little button there, you can have camera priority. A couple of people have mentioned that they actually like to use this as a rear view mirror type of thing, but I personally can't see the point in having that as a rear view mirror, because the field of view on it is further away. I've got a good pair of mirrors, so it doesn't mean anything to me, that. And if you do look at the picture quality, it's not bad at all, but when you play it back on your computer, it is a little grainy and bitty. So let's go back home. You've got your tyre pressure sensors. Your driving recorder automatically comes on, and that records in a loop, so you don't ever have to check any of your footage until you have a problem. And there's the tyre pressures, there's your temperature, etc. And then to connect back to your phone, which it does automatically anyway, that's basically what happens. If you get a message for any reason, then it'll pop up in the corner here in the preview, and I actually find that's more of an advantage than I originally thought. The reason being is sometimes if I'm riding like I am today, I'm supposed to be at work but I've taken the day off, if somebody needs me, then it'll come up as a preview on here rather than me just getting a message because my phone is linked to my Scala Rider. It'll give me the text message warning, but I don't know whether it's important or not. Of course, if it's important, they can phone me. But it comes up as a preview on here. But do remember, if you're going to hit something, just hit it once when it's safe to do it, and don't start fiddling and faffing around with your screen whilst you're riding. I'm probably the only person that's ever said that. So, cameras, tyre pressure sensors, if you don't want them, the other unit that's coming through that I'm going to be reviewing is basically the same type of thing but without those, and it's only about 70 quid. Personally, I've actually found that this is a big advantage, because if for any reason my camera packs up or I lose battery or something goes wrong with it, I do have this backup that's always recording all the time. Once you get used to how this thing works, it's very intuitive and very easy. Let's try the voice activation, because that's linked to my Scala Rider. Monyash. Okay, Monyash, let's go, she's just said. So let's see. Monyash Road, Bakewell, hit that. So no delay, 7 minutes away, hit that. And if you have the full map open, it gives you more information. Or you can have the slightly smaller map so that you've got your music as well if you want it. Okay. So let's have the big map. All done safely, officer. This is your grave. It's beautiful, isn't it? So if you don't have a sat-nav, you can use the one that's on your phone, whichever one it is. If you happen to have Kalimoto, which I've never really tried, then it'll just reflect it through the display. The thing to remember though is that when you do use it through your phone like this, it's going to let me go, bless him. If you do use it through your phone like this, it's going to take extra power out of your phone. So if you're out for a long day, it might be worth considering taking an extra power supply with you so you can be charging your phone up whilst you're at it. I'll be getting the cheaper version to try, but if it's anything like this, it's just going to be equally as impressive. But I'm actually more impressed with the tyre pressure monitors than I thought I would be. I'm well impressed with the quality of the unit, especially for the price. If there's any questions that you have, then feel free to ask. There isn't really a lot to say about this, just please don't start getting distracted and playing about with it when you've got things happening in front of you. Let me show you that crash again. He's noticed the guy didn't even start to brake until the zebra crossing. And unfortunately that could have been us in front, couldn't it? With no escape on that occasion on that road because it's a very narrow road. Okay, ride safely everybody, and remember, to me there's no such thing as a biking season. Just be a little bit more careful and get yourself loads of heated clothing. Merry Christmas everybody, bye bye.